Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Max, and welcome to the Her Story, Her Journey podcast, where we highlight the extra that's in every woman. I'm so glad you joined us today as we spotlight Kati Tshikalu-John. Kati, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am originally from Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but they call it now Zaire. Well, they used to call it Zaire when we migrated and fled the country. And by way of New York, raised in New York by my mom and my bonus dad. I'm not going to call him a stepdad. I have 3 siblings, and I am a mom to 2 beautiful girls, and I am a wife. But most importantly, I am Kati first on the journey of self-discovery. But I am in my mid-40s. I'm excited about that because that's the journey of discovery. And college graduate, definitely. Going back to school, trying to figure out where I want to do. But I'm just excited to be here to talk to you, Dr. Max, because I know you know me since I was 19 years old, I believe. That's the first time you met me. So it's pleasant to be here with you.
Well, yeah, I have known you since you were about 19, and I was like a big sister at that time, just always trying to get into your business and telling you what to do and giving advice, even when it was unsolicited. So I've been doing this advice thing for a long time. But I know I know a little bit of your story, but what I want to do today, because our aim is to take the story that from the people that we see every day that we think are ordinary, and to use that story to show when you had to show extraordinary effort to get through something that was challenging for you. So Kate, what story are you sharing with us today?
Today, I want to share my story of my daughter, Zion. Zion was born premature at 24 weeks. And we were stationed, we're a military family. My husband is a veteran. We were stationed in Fort Wayne, Alaska. And I was at work and my water broke. And at 20 weeks, I medevaced me to the hospital, and I was able to keep her in for 24 weeks more. Like, not even keep her in. She was ready to come out whether I lay on that bed or not. So that's the story we're going to share today, the journey of Zion, what it taught me, where we are, and the strength it took strength and prayers that took for her to be alive today and flourishing. That's the story I'm sharing today.
All right. So what was it like? What did that feel like? I mean, I have 3 healthy boys who were born just big, fat, early, and late, stayed in there, didn't want to come out. So for me, my journey was a little bit different. What was that journey like? Because I can't even begin to imagine what it would be like to know that I have this wonderful life inside of me that I've had all these dreams and all these plans for. And now I'm being told that there's something that might be wrong or something that might prevent this life from coming. What was that like for you?
You know, what's interesting about that journey was because of the trauma I've experienced earlier, I always live outside of myself when I'm faced with things that are difficult. And I don't know how to put that. It's like I was there, but I wasn't fearful. And they didn't register, like until it happened, then it registered. When I was able to actually see her, I had so many fears and I blamed myself. I really blamed myself. Like, what did you do? Like, is she going to be alive? Is she not understanding how big the situation was? It wasn't until, we were in the NICU for a good 4 months, from 1 pound, 5 ounces to 6 pounds and 7 ounces before they released her and be able to have a different oxygen level. But that experience of giving birth, because I thought I was prepared for a C-section because my oldest had she was a C-section baby. And I knew it was going to be a high-risk pregnancy. This is a whole other conversation about doctors not listening to Black women. I knew it was going to be a high-risk pregnancy. I had an amazing doctor in the private sector. I contacted her to move forward my record, to communicate with my doctor, but the doctor was not really receptive. And I'm in a military setting where I'm just learning how to navigate through that. And by the time I had my water broke, it was too late. And then I started blaming myself. Were there signs that I didn't see? Were that I should have paid attention to? Did I not advocate enough for this pregnancy? Because I'm expecting to have a Christmas Eve baby, and I had a baby born on September 6th. And when we got to the hospital, I had an amazing doctor who were like, we're going to try to keep her in as long as we can. Again, I'm like, bed rest and I'm okay. That experience of giving birth to a child that did not cry, coming out of, like, vaginally delivering a baby. Mentally, I wasn't prepared how small she would be because you're so used to full-size babies. Yeah. So I wasn't prepared to that. All I saw was even the top of her head because I was still trying to survive the blood hemorrhage, the afterbirth that wouldn't come out. That was supposed to be just a small surgery, ended up being a life-altering surgery because I almost died also as well during that process. So my poor husband is trying to survive, don't know if his kid is going to be alive or his wife is going to be alive. So it was that traumatic experience. So I never even got to deal with the impact of that surgery and how much that took a toll on me. I went in survivor mode once I saw my daughter laying in that, in the NICU, and I really kept looking at it, struggling. And it wasn't until a coworker of mine came down from Fairbanks, Alaska, which is a 6-hour drive. She drove down to come and see me, and she was a praying woman. Missy, she's no longer with us, and I'll never forget her because I still check on her kids and so forth. Missy showed up, and they allowed her to come and see Zion, and she looked at Zion, and she was like, oh my God, she's so perfect. And wow. I don't know what it is about Missy saying that. She was perfect. That shifted something in my heart and mentally. And I went straight into survival mode.
And survival mode for her or survival mode for you? Okay.
For her. Because again, I'm not thinking about me. I'm not thinking that, hey, you just went through a very crazy surgery process and we had to keep you away from your daughter for a while just so you could survive before you could even enter the NICU. It didn't even register that way. And from that day, subconsciously, I made a decision that if this child makes it, he's going to make it because we've tried everything and I've advocated the best way that I can. And if she doesn't make it, either way, I like to know that I've done everything possible to make sure that I gave her every opportunity medically and being present as a mother. And I remember meeting a nurse in there, and she told me that you have the right to ask any question in this space. You have the right to create a team that you want to run her. And what that team look like is up to you. And no one can tell you otherwise. Yes, they could come in with medical stuff and trying to talk all that jargons to you. And obviously, they're going to say whatever they can recommend. But you have the right to take your time and pull back and tell them and say, I need to make a decision, provided it's not dire, that they need to make it, that's going to impact her life in a different kind of way. And literally, that's how I started that whole journey of staying in the survival mode for Zion in the NICU. It was not easy, but so worth it. But it took a lot. I think it impacted my marriage, my relationship with my husband. I shut down to the world. Nobody knew what was going on with me. It's like nothing outside of that NICU existed. I was literally not even right on the hospital campus in the room that was provided for us. I was back and forth. One of the nurses told me, breast milk is important to a baby as well. My body wasn't prepared to produce milk because I had a baby at 24 weeks. My cousin from Canada, Eddie, brought me, a pumping machine. I just started massaging my breast area. I started pumping milk and willing my body to.
One of the things I want to ask you, you said something that was it kind of resonated with me when you said, in there, I made a vow to advocate for her, because you, in the beginning, kind of asked yourself, did I not fight enough when I was pregnant with her? But once I recognized that she was here and she was so perfect, and that woman almost gave you permission to go back in and fight and to be an advocate. Tell me about that process.
I don't know what it is about what Missy said. She was so perfect that something ignited in me. My natural fighting survival spirit. I think it probably stemmed from looking at my mother in a refugee camp in Zambia, flooding in the middle of the night, leaving everything that you own at 8 years old, and surviving, going to a foreign country and being incarcerated for being a foreigner, and eventually ending up in the United States and surviving. But that survival story also maybe translated to who I was, because that journey started for me at 8 years old. By the time I got to the United States, where I was 11, the year I turned 11, and having to survive as an immigrant of all the trials and tribulation that you didn't think you were going through. And by the time, and then it's being a young mom, I had Ashanti when I was, 19, turning 20. You don't realize what life prepares you for. For all of this stuff that I've been through, not realizing what's to come. My god sister always tell me God only challenges the strongest. I'm like, listen, I don't need them to challenge me, because I'm tired of being challenged. Not this type of challenge. So he wanted to give you Zion to any other parent but you. I said, well, I would have preferred that she's full birth. And I think that resonated with me because I didn't know any other way to be when I'm faced with trial and turbulence and tribulations around me, or trial and circumstances around me. I don't know. I just know how to survive. I instinctively go into my head, it just clicks, like I need to survive, and I don't know why. As we're learning and we're growing up, like trauma have many ways of impacting us, and we didn't know, and I didn't know.
So what's some ways that you can say, because you said you learned a lot about yourself. We know that you talked about the preparation and the different events that you had, but still you learned some things about yourself in the process. What's one strength that you learned about yourself during this time?
Oh, I could make a whole room of doctors feel like they're the smallest people. When you look at your parents, how they navigate the world, my bonus dad was that person. Papa could walk into a room and he never punished us. He talked to us. He had a way of, and you don't realize you pick up on that. It was just the confidence level that I said, I'm the mother. She's my child. And I have the right to be in this space where we're discussing her care, what that means for us and what that means for her. And building those relationships. And I didn't need to tarnish the relationship. I didn't need to belittle them, because I know when you work in a NICU, you are a special kind of doctor, you're a special kind of nurse to be in those spaces, because it's not for the faint of heart. So it's building those relationships and understanding that I'm going to be present here every day at that bedside. I'm going to do the kangaroo care, because my daughter needs to know my skin. She needs to feel my skin, and she needs to hear my heartbeat, and she needs to help me make this milk so I could feed her and she could be healthy, because I know that's going to be healthy for her brain eventually. And I needed to do that. And it was just me understanding, once they realized, oh, this is not a typical Black woman. Yeah, my accent may be strong, all that stuff may become, but you know what? It is what it is. But I'm going to ask the questions, and I'm going to hold you accountable. And one of your nurses come at me sideways, but we're talking about my child as if I don't know anything. We're not going to be okay with that. So I'm not going to be your stereotypical Black woman you assume all Black women are. So it literally is, okay, I'm educated, I may not know a lot, but I could educate myself in this space to make sure that this child have every opportunity. And I'm going to make you do your job. It's not that in the NICU space and not do it, because I know they go above and beyond, but my baby was brown. There's a deficit in so many ways that could have went left because she was a brown baby. And I needed to make sure I spoke up for her.